The Osage. They have the worst land possible. But they outsmarted everybody. The land had oil on it. Black gold. Money flows freely here now.
I do love that money, sir.
Well, in the case of Robert De Niro, we were teenagers together, and he's the only one who really knows where I come from, and people I knew, and that sort of thing. Some of them are still alive. He knows them. I know his friends, his old friends, and we had a real testing ground in the '70s where we tried everything, and we found that, we trusted each other. It's all about trust and love. It's what it is. And that's a big deal because very often if an actor has a lot of power, and he had a lot of power at that time, an actor could take over your picture. The studio gets angry with you. The actor comes in and takes it over. With him, I never felt that. I never felt that. There was a freedom. There was experimenting, and also not afraid of anything. I wasn't afraid to do something. I just did it. And years later, he told me he worked with this kid, Leo DiCaprio, and little boy in this boy's life. And he said, you should work with this kid sometime. But he didn't, it was just casual. But with him, something like that, a recommendation at that time, I think in the early 90s, is not casual. He says it casually, but he rarely said that, rarely he rarely gave recommendations. And so years go by, and I'm presented with Leo with Gangs in New York. And we worked together in Gangs. He made Gangs possible, actually. He loved the pictures I made. And he wanted to explore the same territory. And so we developed more of a relationship when we did The Aviator. And there was a kind of, towards the end of it, there was a kind of something happening, a maturity with him. I'm not quite sure, but we really clicked in certain scenes. And that led to Departed. And then that became much closer. That was a project where Bill Monahan, him, me, other people, we were writing all the time and recreating that character that he played of Billy. And so during that time, he really found out that even though it's 30 years difference, he has similar sensibilities. He likes pretty much, he'll come to me and he'll say, listen to this record. It's Louis Jordan and Ella Fitzgerald. I grew up with it. He's not bringing me anything new, but he likes it. That's interesting. Why is he bringing? He'll call me and say, I had a call, I had a cold, and I was looking at Criterion films, and I wanted to catch up on some of these classics, and I saw this incredible movie. It's incredible. It's a Japanese picture. It's called Tokyo Story. Did you ever see it? I said, this was last year. I said, yeah. I mean, it took me a few years to catch up. I couldn't even understand the Ozu style, seeing it for the first time in the early 70s, because we're used to Orson Welles cameras, And this guy got it from watching it on a big screen and TV. And that's very interesting to me, to be open that way to older parts of our culture, newer parts of our culture, of course, and the curiosity that he has about other people and other cultures. And there's a trust. There's a trust. And even if we can't get it right away, we know we'll come up with something. Maybe other people have relationships where they come up with it faster. Well, we don't. We just work it through. For example, the scene between Leo and Bob in the jail at the end. That scene ultimately was finally written, I think, a few days before we shot it. Working with the two of them and working with Marianne and everybody, because we had said so much and it could have gone so many different ways. But what does the picture really need? How much more is there for them to say to each other after all that's happened? And so we went that way. It's really, it's trust, particularly doing Wolf of Wall Street, by the way. He came up with wonderful stuff that was outrageous. And so I pushed him, he pushed me, then I pushed him more than he pushed me. And we suddenly, everything was wild, And it's really quite something. But, and he had a good energy too on the set. That was also important, very important, because in the mornings I'm not really good, and I get on set, and then I'd see him or Jonah Hill, or him and Margot Robbie, or him and Lily, and suddenly they're all like, "Hey, I said, okay, let's work.
I was sent down from Washington, D.C. to see about these murders.
So what about him?
See who's doing it.